Hi, my name is Krista, and I am the founder and CEO from Doctors into Light Resources. We provide hope, inspiration, education, and resources to those who are mental illnesses and their family and friends. We have Lynne Silva-Breen with us, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist in Minnesota and is a former Lutheran parish pastor. She holds master's degrees in divinity as well as marriage and family therapy. She specializes in marriage and family counseling with a focus in helping couples of all kinds better understand and repair their mutual trust, intimacy, and relationship satisfaction. First, let's describe how you combine spirituality and mental health into your practice.
Sure. When I see new clients, I think of spirituality as their relationship to something larger than themselves. So I'm always asking them about their background and what they might bring to the table when I ask a question, what provides meaning in your life? How do you have a sense of spirit? I ask them about practices, I ask them about religious traditions, and it's from there that we go. So I am listening for my client's experience. And so because I can think and talk in those categories, that's where I go. I try to meet them on their own spiritual journey and use the language and traditions and training that I have to walk alongside it. Spirituality can become a really deep resource for people, especially as they look for problem solving or relationship repair, or often healing from trauma or some other relationship injury.
How can spirituality and faith affect a person's mental health?
Great question. I think spirituality can be both a wonderful resource and for others can be a potentially damaging relationship in their life. And again, I'm listening for their own particular story about how spirit or the life of the spirit or a community or religious tradition or training has affected them. For many people, their religious training has become a positive relationship with God and others, and that can provide support, it can provide meaning, it can give people healing and healthy rituals to participate in, such as prayer or worship or service. Yet for others, that same kind of community or experience can be very painful, especially if they've been injured in any personal, body, or emotional way. That relationship of spirit can also become a great burden. So I'm trying really hard to listen for their own story. And from there, we use that, or at least I think about it as a relationship. So, what is their relationship to God, to the community, to themselves? And so it's either positive and life affirming thing sometimes, or it's also a hard and difficult and painful relationship that we're working on.
Great. So you have experience with EMDR.
I do.
So I just want you to explain that type of therapy, and then how long does it typically last?
Okay. This is a really good question, Krista, because EMDR is a very unique trauma and healing modality. I'll try to explain it the best I can. EMDR is short for eye movement and desensitization and reprocessing therapy. That's a mouthful. What it means is the founder of EMDR, Francis Shapiro, discovered 25 years ago or so that human brains seem to be able to process heavy emotional memory faster and better if both sides of the brain are kind of online. And one of the ways that our brain naturally does that is to use both eyes at once and when they move. Early theory was that EMDR, which uses motion of the hands back and forth, or tapping on the body in hands or on the legs or even with the feet, brings both sides of the brain kind of awake. And by guiding someone through a difficult memory along with the tapping or the eye movement, the brain seems to be able to process it in a healthier and faster way. Mm-hmm. So many people find that with a trained therapist using EMDR, they're led gently, carefully to bring up a memory that might be really hard to deal with on their own. And with guidance, I always called it guided daydreaming. Mm-hmm. Allowing the brain to sort of follow that emotion, to feel it, the brain will want to bring it through other memories network and kind of connect it to the regular memory network. Mm. Am I making sense so far?
Yeah, definitely.
Because trauma, we've discovered, at least the big brains that do this research, it seems to be that when we have a traumatic memory that keeps flashing at us or making us feel the original experience, the brain has stored it in its own sort of cluster of neurological life. It's like it sits here in the brain all by itself, and it keeps firing, and the brain wants to heal it, but it may not be able to by itself just by talking. Talking doesn't usually help as much as doing this whole body memory work. So what we think is the result is that by helping people guide through this emotion, feel it, the brain brings it into the larger memory network, and it becomes part of the person's normal memory. Okay. So you don't lose your memories. It doesn't damage your brain or hurt you in any way. What it's doing is making that alone trauma memory that fires, now part of your normal narrative. It takes sort of the urgency out of it for many people. Yep. And I was a client of EMDR.
Yes, how was your experience with that?
I was in a car accident, a violent car accident as a child, and it nearly destroyed my family. And I had been trying to deal with its effects through my life. I did talk therapy about it 4 times. And I'd still be triggered by it. And after 9/11, that repetitive media constant refrain of that tragedy really woke my trauma memories back up. And I ended up with a panic attack. And I found a great therapist who was recently trained in EMDR, and I just said, I've given up on just talking about this. I clearly need something else. So she guided me with EMDR, and I must tell you that for the first time in my life, what I always called the static, the anxiety, the noise of a chronic anxiety disorder and delayed PTSD finally went away. It was so transformative. And it made me curious about it. And when I was going through my own transition out of parish ministry into therapy, I knew that I wanted to gain some experience of my career first, but I knew I wanted to be trained in EMDR, and it's been a remarkable tool. And I'm really deeply grateful as a client of it, and also now as a provider to be able to help people.
Yeah, because you have a lot of experience with parish ministry. What would you recommend to other pastors about mental health?
Well, parish pastors don't need to be reminded that they're dealing with issues of mental health every single day. Not only their own and the stresses and strains of dealing with so many different people relating to such a unique family system of churches. I think I would just encourage every leader, youth leader, musician, but especially parish pastors, to please get additional training on identifying major mental illnesses, learning about how family systems affect the life of the parish, and of course, dealing with your own family issues and your own mental health. There's, boy, that job is a really tough job. I don't think I could do it anymore. I have great empathy for parish clergy and lay leaders, and I really would just encourage them to not only deal with their own mental health, but also learn more about it, because it's everywhere all the time,
Yes.
in every family and almost every single conversation they have.
Yeah, because mental health or mental illness affects every single person.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because there's 44 million Americans living with mental illness.
Exactly. And if we don't know more about it, we can't be both understanding. And also, I always talked about clergy being bridges between the community and families and providers. So I've gone out and tried to meet, several dozen clergy to tell them about my own practice, but to say, look, you have such an important role in the community. You can help destigmatize getting help for relational issues or even larger mental health issues. You can help people say, no, this is what we do when we love one another, when we care for one another. We go out and get help. I mean, you wouldn't have someone come to you and say, wow, my son broke his arm. You wouldn't say, wow, that's too bad. I guess you'll just sit at home and deal with it. You would send them for repair. I really hope that eventually our culture gets better at talking about mental health and body health the same way.
Great. So in the past you had cancer.
I did. Yes, I do. Yep.
How does cancer affect a person's mental health?
Wow. Yes, I've dealt with a slow-growing cancer called non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in my life in the last 12 years. I've been blessed with the opportunity to get some great medicine and to feel really, really well. And I took it as a wake-up call in my own life to really get going on good eating and especially daily exercise. But being said, I think that cancer is one of the scariest words that anybody in our culture can hear. It is a shock to know that your body is in danger, even if you're told, it's just a little bit here and a little bit there, or you're told that it's massive. The day I heard that word, I cannot tell you how scary it was. I was a mom of a young baby and a 3-year-old, and I just thought, I have to live. I think, that being said, so I think some people experience cancer as a great moment of fear, and so it can really stress people's mental health. And if you're even dealing with one of the two most popular, the most common mental disorders of anxiety or depression, it can just light that up. So I really encourage people to follow their own direction, work with their doctors and other caregivers, let their spiritual leaders know, their families know what they're going through, to not be afraid to reach out for additional support from somebody like me who holds a mental health license, who may understand what they're going through, to help them manage with the other resources they have to deal with this life challenge. Because cancer care is now in some pretty amazing times, especially, it doesn't always mean you're going to die. It may mean more that you have a chronic disease like I do right now. You will have a chance to feel better. And you can help your family and friends to know that. And what a great opportunity to really work with your own self, to say, what do I believe about my life? How do I want to live it? Can I still do good things while I'm afraid? Can I still, serve my family, my friends, my community, my work? Can I still serve and do it while I'm afraid? And I think that that's an interesting place to be, because so many of us have to do that for other things, like a chronic illness, a mental illness, a biological illness, some other grief or heavy burden. It's really a calling of our life to say, how do we want to live, even when it's not perfect?
One last question I have for you is, what would you recommend a person who is facing death in a mental health scenario?
I think that we die the way we live. As a pastor, I have been to people's bedsides since I was a young adult. I was trained as a hospital chaplain for a little bit of my training in the hospice unit. I have had my time sitting at the bedsides of those who die throughout my life. And I have seen that we really do die the way we live. We don't usually change much. And I think that if someone has a struggle with mental health and they are also struggling with end-of-life issues, again, my issue would be, please continue to talk to people you love. Please continue to reach out to your community. Do not drop away. Reach out for, again, with people like me who may understand what those issues are. And our hospitals and other treatment centers often have licensed providers like me on staff. So even if someone is actively dying in a hospital or in a hospice, there can be providers, even music therapists or animal therapy and mental health therapy and physical therapy that can assist us in this last phase of our lives, because whether we want to think about it or not, these lives have a beginning and they have an end. And I would like to live mine as coherently as I can, and I want to help everybody to do it, holding on to the good of their life every day we can.
Well, thank you, Lynne.
You're welcome, Krista.
Great time to
You're
talk
welcome.
about mental health. So you can subscribe to our channel to find more interviews with mental practitioners. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.